Israeli Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz is expected to meet with the UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron in London today. And this comes after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's rival met with Vice President Kamala Harris and Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Washington this week. So for more on all of this, we want to bring in Vedant Patel. He is the principal deputy spokesperson for the U.S. State Department. Vedant, I want to get into Benny Gantz's visit, but first I just want to ask you about the ceasefire and potential hostage release negotiations. We heard that the president said the ball is now in Hamas's court. We heard Hamas say that one of the Israeli requirements was that they identify a list of hostages that are still alive. Hamas says they can't do that while they're still under attack. Where do things stand? Has Israel dropped that requirement? What is happening with Hamas?
So this is something that we are going to continue to work around the clock, not just with our partners in Israel, but our partners in Qatar and other countries. We want to see hostages released immediately. As you know, we continue to believe that there are American citizens among that group, and so we want to see this get done, and it's something that we're working around the clock. In terms of the specifics of the deliberations and negotiations, I think those are best to be kept private, but it's something that we'd like to see happen yesterday, and we're working around the clock to make it so.
And was the visit by Benny Gantz productive? And if it was, in what way?
So it's important to remember Minister Gantz is, of course, a member of the Israeli War Cabinet, and this was an opportunity for members across this administration to continue to engage with them on the very challenging issues that are currently facing the Middle East region. Of course, one of the things that we continue to raise is, one, our continued support for Israel to defend itself and Israel's security. We believe very strongly that Gaza should not be a launching pad for terrorism against Israel. We also believe that there is more that can be done to address the humanitarian situation in Gaza. You saw late last week the United States, in close coordination with our Jordanian partners, begin airdrops. We're also continuing to look at what opportunities might exist for a maritime corridor, as well as continuing to unearth what is possible through land crossings. As I said, the humanitarian situation is dire, and that's one of the things that we continue to discuss with our Israeli partners as well. And you opened this interview talking about hostages and everything that is being done around the clock to ensure that these hostages can be released.
I want to ask you about that humanitarian aid. Of course, part of the reason it's happening is because the U.S. and other countries have pulled support from UNRWA, the UN nation that had been providing most of the humanitarian aid in Gaza. As I understand it, these drops are very difficult, very dangerous, and I wonder what precautions are being taken to ensure that they are being given to people who are most in need, that the aid is going to the right people.
Our point of view, Anne Marie, is that every lever possible needs to be pulled when it comes to humanitarian aid, and that is what we are trying to do in close coordination with partners in the region. And look, as it relates to UNRWA, there were, and we've talked about this before, some very serious and credible allegations as it relates to employees of UNRWA that the United Nations and UNRWA itself are continuing to look into. But that being said, we know that they are critical partners as it relates to the provision of aid in the region, but they have an internal process that they need to work through. Of course, any kind of participation in terrorism and violence is certainly a non-starter for us.
I want to ask you a quick question before we leave about the instability in Haiti. As you know, the prime minister had been away negotiating a deal to get an international force to help bring some stability to the country. He was unable to return to Haiti. He's now in Puerto Rico. There are Americans that are there. What advice are you giving them? Because at this point, I think leaving is going to be pretty difficult. The airport has been the site of a lot of fighting. What advice or assistance are you giving the Americans who are in Haiti now?
So the first thing to remember, Anne Marie, and I'm glad you've given me the opportunity, is that Haiti for quite some time has been a level 4 travel advisory country, which means that the State Department recommends it as a destination for do not travel. So first and foremost, any American citizen considering traveling to Haiti should strongly reconsider their efforts to do so. Beyond that, specifically our team in Port-au-Prince, there continues to exist a limited operation in which we have some ability to help American citizens who might need assistance, and we look forward to having those conversations.
All right. Vedant Patel, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.